Nisi refers to these edited pictures as amameme, amamumish, when he's requesting to go get tested by a dentist to prove that he had a gold tooth. Y'all are refusing. Why?
And I'm bad like the Barbie. I'm a doll, but I still wanna party. Being felt like I'm ready to bend. I'm a 10, so I pull in a 10. Like Daddy.
Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Nogwazi Ntombela, also known as Kwazibe on all social media platforms. Do subscribe, be a part of this family, and if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back, darling. Now, as you know, every week I bring you proceedings in the Senzo Meyiwa trial, so I'm here to give you exactly that. Don't forget to like this video, comment with your thoughts down below, and also share this video with your friends so that our video does reach a greater audience, so that one, our family grows, and two, more people are educated or are informed about what is happening in our courts. So without wasting too much of your time, let us get right into this video. On Monday, the 9th of June, we were expecting the court proceedings to continue as the judge had ruled that Mnisi's request to get Monday off was unacceptable. And you could remember that from Friday, he did have a bit of a tantrum, but we came back on Monday and Ramsipili basically indicated that he is standing in for Mnisi because Mnisi is not in court, and that he would be representing both accused 1 and 3, as well as obviously accused number 2, which is his client. Then the judge took on to apologize to the country, the accused, the lawyers, the JP, and everyone, because he says, well, you know, everyone reads the newspapers, and he is basically going to apologize for his behavior on Friday. And he says that in his 26 years experience and his 30 years as an attorney, he has never behaved in the way in which he behaved on Friday. And to be quite honest, that is a lie, because we have seen the judge react and also behave in such a manner before, and it prompted the Black Lawyers Association to get involved. And basically, it's not the first time that he has behaved in such a manner, and now he came to apologize. So he does say that he profusely apologizes for his behavior last week. His wife also advised him that he should apologize. The JP advised him, and he does agree with everyone that his behavior was quite questionable. And he even goes as far as mentioning that his son has recently passed due to cancer, and his son would not be proud of the way that he behaved. He went on to say people are saying that he is racist, and it is shocking to him that people will say he's racist. And he goes on to name drop a whole lot of people, like the likes of Thabo Mbeki being his lecturer or mentor, and him staying in the house of Moses Kotane, and being around people that were part of the ANC, and his grandfather being in the ANC, and how he'd be shocked in knowing that he is racist, or shocked at what the people are saying that he is racist. He also goes as far as saying that his great-grandmother was half German. So for people to say that he's racist, really he doesn't agree with that point. He says that if we really want to know about him, we should ask the likes of the Archbishop. Now, I felt like that the apology was a half-ass apology, if I'm being completely honest. But you know what? An apology is an apology, and I guess we just have to move on, because this is how Judge Rata is. After the apology of the judge, then the state led their arguments as to why they actually want to reopen their case and lead new evidence. And they did say that the evidence that they want to lead are in relation to the phones of accused number 3 as well as accused number 2. Now, with accused number 3, they say that the photos that they want to lead are 3 new photos. In fact, it is 1 photo that has been sort of zoomed in and zoomed out for them to be able to present their case, which then makes it 3 photos for accused number 3. And then the next photos are for for accused number two's phone, or they came from accused number two's memory card, and there are about 16 photos that they would like to lead evidence about. They raised their arguments. They quoted some of the cases like R versus Hepworth and some of the sections of law, which is section 167 and I think 186, with regards to why they want to reopen this case and why they believe that it is in the interest of justice for them to reopen this case. Once they completed their arguments, Ramusipile was set to respond, and Ramusipile requested that we go on a short break. After the break, he then indicated that the accused 1 and 3 would like to consult with Advocate Mncube first before they give instruction as to the way forward. So it was suggested that the court adjourn on Monday so that we wait for Advocate Mncube to return to court and he'd be able to consult with regards to this new information that the state wants to bring in. So those were the proceedings on Monday. On Tuesday, the 10th of June, the state completed their arguments and Advocate Mncube was up with his arguments, where he basically says everything that the state has spoken about on Monday is everything that they were arguing about on Friday when he was present. And the fact that the state is saying that the only reason why they didn't lead these photos in the evidence in chief is because they were more focused on the dreadlocks and the outfit that accused number 3 was wearing on the night of the incident. And Mncube says this cannot be true because when they made an application to the NPA, or the application for the warrant of arrest for the accused, it was mentioned that the accused had a gold tooth. So that was one of the factors or contributing factors to the approval of the warrant of arrest for accused number 3, is that they did mention the gold tooth. So it wasn't new information, and they should have led the photos on the gold tooth as well when they led it through Gininda. He also does mention that the issue of the gold tooth didn't rise when the defense was cross-examining Gininda. It was something that came from Gininda when he was asked to identify some factors that accused number 3 had, or some of the features that he had on one of the photos in Exhibit S. And Gininda is the one that pointed out a gold tooth in the picture. And when Mncube requested Gininda to say, I mean, what do you mean there's a gold tooth in this tooth? He says, no, it looks like a shiny object. And then there was another picture that Gininda referred to saying that there was a gold tooth on accused number 3's tooth, where accused number 3 denies that that is him in the picture. And Mncube basically says that everyone in the courtroom can see that that is not accused number 3, and it was in fact his younger or older brother that Gininda was referring to, who does in fact have a gold tooth on his upper jaw. Now, another important thing that Mncube mentions in his arguments is the fact that the state had these photos all along. Now, remember, this is the state's evidence. So they've had these photos all along, and their decision not to use those photos was on them. And Mncube basically also says that they don't have anything against the state still investigating during the trial, but these photos are not new evidence that came up during the trial. It's evidence that they already had. Mncube argues that the information that they are trying to bring in now is irrelevant, and that they can quote R versus Hepworth all they like, but the reasons that they've given as to why they didn't leave this evidence before is really not good enough, and he feels that their application should be rejected. Ramusipile then began his argument, where he said that the state had ample time to actually go through the photos even prior to when we had a break, when Mncube needed to represent accused number 1, and now he's saying that the state is quoting R versus Hepworth, which really does not help. And he says that nowhere in their application does the state say that this was an oversight, which means they purposely left this information out because they felt it was irrelevant. But now all of a sudden they are wanting to bring it in, which indicates that the state basically wants a second bite at the cherry. And he's saying them leaving this information out was a decision that they took, and now they need to sleep in that bed. He also reiterates that them bringing in this new evidence basically serves no purpose and the evidence is irrelevant. Nxumalo had no submissions to make. Mshololo as well reiterated the words of both Mnisi and Ramasipili in saying the state was negligent with their investigation, and that is the reason why we find ourselves in this position now. She says that firstly, this is their own evidence. And I really laughed because this is true. You cannot be telling us that you never had a look at these pictures when it's part of the evidence you gave to the defense. You're the one that compiled all of these documents and you gave them to the defense, and now you're saying you didn't have enough time to look through it. Journey. She also points out that this does violate the right to a fair trial for accused number 2, because these photos they had all along, and therefore they could have given him the opportunity to make his defense with regards to these pictures, but they chose not to do that, and now his defense needs to be reworked because the state has decided to bring up new evidence with the photos that they already had, which is valid. It does say that this will be prejudicial to the accused because the investigating officer had all 5,000 photos that were on the phone of accused number 2, and he sat down and chose the photos that he felt were relevant for this case, and now all of a sudden those photos are not good enough and they need more photos to back up their case. Mshololo had a very good argument. In fact, all of the defense attorneys had a very good argument, but as we know, the judge will always side with the state. Now, Baloyi, in trying to convince the judge to rule in his favor, says that the photos were discovered after the evidence of Gininda. Now, this is a lie. You cannot come to court and lie to people. If this was discovered after the evidence of Gininda, then why did the defense have the disc as far back as 2 years ago? Remember, we did have a break in the proceedings where the defense said they received a disc, but the disc was encrypted. Do you remember that part? So why is he saying it was only received during Gininda's testimony? Because Gininda only started testifying last year in October, if I'm not mistaken, and these photos were already in the hands of the defense way before then, which means the state had these photos way before then. So I feel like Baloyi is losing his mind. He then also says that the issue of the O-shaped beard on Ndanzi was brought up by the defense in the cross-examination of Tumelo, and he even goes as far as quoting the date of the 8th of August in 2023 when Tumelo was on the stand, and Ramusipili put a preposition to Tumelo that accused number 2 never had that O-shaped beard. If you felt that that preposition was put to Tumelo, why are you only bringing it up now when you're cross-examining Gininda or when you're re-examining Gininda? Why don't you bring it up when Tumelo was on the stand? That's where I was confused. The judge then requests that we go for tea break, and after the break he comes with his ruling where he says that the state didn't have this information and therefore he is granting the application to the state to reopen their case in leading the evidence of these photos. This is something that we've been experiencing all the time in this case, where the judge will constantly rule in favor of the state regardless of how strong the argument of the defense is. And since the judge does grant the application or says that the application is acceded to, the state then calls on their next witness, which was called after lunch on Tuesday, Warrant Officer Ndlovu. Now, if you remember, Warrant Officer Ndlovu has testified in this case before, so basically we went through some of the evidence that he had brought in then. And another thing that was surprising to me is that they were making him read records about phone calls. Now, Warrant Officer Ndlovu is a person who downloaded pictures. I don't know what business Sibanda had introducing the evidence of Mukhola talking about phone calls and please call me's that Ndanzi's number was sending. And Ramusipili, rightfully so, does object to this and says, this person, I was under the impression he was here to talk about the photos that he downloaded. Now he's been asked to read records about please call me's. He's not an expert in data analysis and phone calls and all that. So why are you putting these versions to him or making him read the record of other people that are talking to something that is not within his expertise? Banda, in response to Ramasipili's objection, says, no, but you said that this person was not in possession of his phone. So I'm trying to make this witness basically confirm that. And Ramasipili says, unless this person has a crystal ball, there's no way that he can tell who was in possession of this particular cell phone when those please call me's were made. So therefore, he is not the relevant person to be asking anything with regards to please call me's and messages and all of that sort of thing. And go through the process of taking him through some of the pictures, and he does confirm that the pictures are exactly as the pictures that he downloaded. He says that although he didn't go through each individual photo to check if it's the same photo, but the fact that the files are saying there is 2,000 files on this phone or memory card, and the files that he has on his system are 2,000 as well, it does confirm that he has copied the right information onto the disk. Whilst Sibanda is leading the witness, there comes the question about the O-shaped beard, which Ramasipili objects about, because he says, you know, the properties of the picture that you're referring to, you have not placed on records, like things such as the date that the picture was taken, the time in which it was taken. You're just pointing him to a picture that has an O-shaped beard, but we don't know when the pictures were taken. And Sibanda does indicate that he is getting to that point. What is surprising about all of the pictures that he led on the day, besides one, is that all of the pictures were taken allegedly in 2020. Now, this is way after the incident had happened, and what people I think are struggling with is that when Ramasipili put the version that accused number 2 has never had an O-shaped beard, he was referring to the day of the incident, because remember, when Tumelo led his evidence, he was referring to the day of the incident. So whatever rebutting that the defense was doing with regards to the evidence that was given was in connection to the day. So when Ramasipili said Ntanzi says he's never had an O-shaped beard, he was referring to never having it on the day of the incident. I don't know if I'm the one who's not getting that, or people are just refusing to understand common sense. The witness was then taken through several other pictures where he was asked to describe the clothing that the people in the pictures were wearing, and one of the pictures does have a hoodie. Now, the witness in describing this jacket does not refer to it as a hoodie, because I guess he didn't get the memo. But he kept referring to it as a jacket with a hat, a jacket with a hat. Even Sibanda tried to say, we've heard people saying that it's a hoodie, and Mshololo objects and says, no, that should come to the witness, that should come from the witness and not from you. Now, as the witness is describing the facial features on one of the pictures, he does mention that the person in the picture has a beard here. Has a beard here under his mouth, and he says that this particular beard is called uswayini in Zulu. The way I laughed at this word. Now, is leading the witness with regards to a particular picture where the person in the picture is wearing a hoodie, a gray hoodie with black and some red detailing on it. And Mshololo basically says this evidence, the relevance of this evidence is really, there's no relevance, because one, these pictures were taken in 2020 and 2019, and the judge says, but is that what the state is trying to prove? And Sibanda then says, no, we're trying to prove the version of never ever. Never ever during the incident, not never ever in life. Sibanda, come on. Those were the proceedings on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, the 11th of June, we continued with this witness, whereby he explains the process of basically retrieving information from deleted files. And he does say that there are two ways in which he can extract a phone. You can either do logical, which is when you get pictures and information that's on the phone, and then you do physical. That's when you can also find deleted items on a particular cell phone. Continues going through the evidence of the cell phone as well as the pictures that were on the phone, and in particular he mentioned two photos two photos that belong to accused number 2 or depicted accused number 1. My apologies, Moses Mia, and he does say that the t-shirt that he's wearing is a red t-shirt with like white spots, and then the state refers the witness to the evidence of Zungu where he speaks about accused number 1 wearing a red t-shirt during the day of the incident, if I'm not mistaken. Now my thing is, the picture that the witness is talking about doesn't have any metadata because it was apparently deleted. So we don't even know the day the picture was taken. But 2, the most important thing is that Zungu told us that he was shown these photos. So anything Zungu testified about in court was based off of pictures that he had already seen. Anything that he says that he saw, red t-shirt, jeans, kavela, that was pictures that he saw. He was shown those pictures by the lead investigating officer. So anything he talked about with regards to those photos was something that he already saw. And not saw as in on the day of the incident, but saw after the fact. And then again, there was a picture that the witness spoke about which depicted guns and some bullets. Now, the interesting thing about this particular picture with the guns is that it shows 3 guns. According to the witness, it shows 3 guns and 3 bullets, and then there's a case with more bullets inside. Now, when he talks about this particular picture, he says that this picture was taken in 2021. Now, Ntanzi was in jail at that time. So what was Ntanzi doing taking pictures of guns in a car in 2021? Before the witness wraps up his evidence, he does confirm that he had backed up this information that he had stored in a disk. So all the information that he's testifying about now is based off of his backup. So when comparing the information that he backed up way back then when he received the cell phone and the information that he sent to the defense with the disc is basically the same information, and he does give us like the file names and everything that was stored. Then Mncube commences his cross-examination on Wednesday, and he touches on some very important questions. Some of the questions that he touched on is with regards to now this particular album and if Ndlovu actually was the person who compiled the album. Ndlovu denies being the person who compiled the album. He said the album was already done. All that he did in this case was to download the phones. He knows nothing about the album and the compiling of the album. He just downloaded the phones. Now, all along when Sibanda was leading this witness, they were referring to the information on the pictures as metadata. Now that Mnisi is asking him about metadata, he suddenly says, well, ngizwa ngawe about metadata, kusho wena. What do you mean? You've been referring to this thing as metadata all along. Now that Mnisi is asking questions, you're getting an attitude. Then Mnisi does put the version of accused number 1 where he says accused number 1 does know accused number 2, but they're not really close. The only reason why he knows accused number 2 is because accused number 2 is closer to his younger brother. He then says that he doesn't know how his picture could have landed in accused number 2's phone, but he is suspecting that this picture was a picture that Gwabini had, because Gwabini is a person that he knows very well, and Gwabini had access to his phone. Basically, Gwabini would sometimes use his phone to make calls, to take pictures, and so on and so forth. But he doesn't want to speculate as to how the picture got there, but he definitely does not know how his pictures got into Ntanzi's phone. And Mnisi touches on the issue of the pictures with the guns, and he says that in the world that we're living in now, there's a lot of things that go on the internet. There's a lot of pictures that can be downloaded from the internet. Are you aware of this? And he says yes, he's very much aware of that. And Mnisi refers to these edited pictures as ama meme, ama mumish. It's memes. memes nisi. So he does say that pictures are editable. So basically you can edit pictures and so on and so forth. The witness does then agree to this fact that pictures can be edited. Ramasipili then took over with the cross-examination, and one thing I've always said about Ramasipili is he is tech savvy. He is into technology. He understands it very, very well. So his cross-examination was into the finer details of the technological aspect of things and the technological terms and how technology actually works. He questioned about the XRY system. He questioned about the deleted files and how they're stored, and how they no longer reflect the dates in which they were stored. And he also got the witness to admit that when a picture has a particular date, sometimes it can not necessarily mean the picture was taken with the particular phone, but it could mean that the picture entered the memory card on that particular date, which is a very important aspect, if you ask me, because it then means that anyone who had access to the phone could remove and insert a memory card and put in a new picture in that memory card, which is what the defense are really, really driving at. Now, when Ramasipili asked the question about, I think he said cough raw, he says that pictures that are cough raw, that basically means that they were deleted and then they were retrieved. And as the witness is about to answer the question, the judge says, what is the actual problem? And now what the judge is saying is that a photo can never change. But the fact of the matter is the photo is not the exact photo that was deleted. Right? So that is the reason why it doesn't have the information that the original photo would have. And Ramasipili says, I'm not referring to the subject matter of the photo in terms of Nokwazi being in the picture and then all of a sudden it's someone else, but I'm referring to the data, the metadata on that particular picture. Now, the last point on Wednesday that Ramasipili touched on is the issue of the hoodie, where he says, you know, you were made to read a portion of Mukhola's evidence where she speaks about a hoodie and you just read a portion about a jacket, a gray jacket, and you explained that it had red and it had black and it had this. Is that what Mukhola said as well? And the witness says, no, what Mukhola described was just a gray hoodie and that was it. She didn't describe the jacket that I described. And then Ramasipili basically says, I'm going to request Mr. Ntanzi to stand up. And Ntanzi does stand up. And Ntanzi today, yet again, is wearing a gray hoodie. And he says, is that not a gray hoodie as well? And he says, yes, it is. But is it the same one that you described? And the witness says, no. So it's basically an indication that they could have been talking about completely different jackets on a completely different day. That is the point that Ramasipili was driving, that the fact that Ntanzi has a gray jacket does not mean that it is the same gray jacket that everyone is referring to that he was wearing on that day. Or the fact that he's wearing a black hoodie today, does that now mean that that's the black hoodie that he was wearing in 2014? But a lot of people, that went over their heads. Then the funniest moment of the afternoon on Wednesday is when Ramasipili said it's very important to lead a person and give context. Right now you were asked to read these things and you were not given context, so therefore you don't know why you were reading them, and context is important to be given to a person who was never involved in the actual investigation of the case. Sibanda then argues that these are points for arguments, and Ramasipili says, I don't want to ridicule you, Sibanda, right? But your objection is laughable. And you are the one that introduced this. Give your objection any glory by giving it a response. And I was like, oh, Ramasipili can be so savage at times. And then the judge basically asked, what inference is Ramasipili saying that the state is trying to make? Ramasipili then says, I'm a lawyer, and there is a particular inference that they're trying to make the court be drawn to with regards to these hoodies. The judge then asked the state, is that what you're trying to do? And Ramasipili says, hey, he led this evidence and he shouldn't stand up and cry now that we're busy crossing on the same evidence. So those were the proceedings on Wednesday. On Thursday, as Ramsipili was continuing with his cross-examination, the judge then said he does not want to interfere, but literally interfered, and says that, the definition of relevance is this, and he started reading the definition of relevance. And Ramsipili said, "May I respond?" And the judge says, "You know what? I know that this information is irrelevant. So what?" Ramsipili says, "May I just respond in brief?" And in his response, he basically does say, before this witness was even called, I did say that this information was irrelevant, but I'm going to reiterate it again so that it's on record again, that this witness here really has nothing to tell us. The information that is bringing is really irrelevant, right? And he does say, I also objected to the recalling of this witness because it really is irrelevant. And then they go through some of the other pictures, and the witness basically says he never analyzed the photos. All he did was to download them. And Ramsipili basically says, "You know what? If I could applaud a witness, I would do that, because you've basically just concluded my cross-examination in saying my work was just to download. I know nothing about anything else. That is all I did, and that is all I'm going to say." Mshololo had a few questions for the witness. Nxumalo, as per usual, had no questions. And Mshololo's questions were very, very important. It was basically case closed. The witness can go. She firstly confirmed that the witness does confirm the contents of the pictures, and he does agree. Then she asked about the witness being a facial expert, facial identification expert, and the witness says no, he's not. And then it says, of the pictures that you were told to read or were told to tell us about, all of them reflect a date of 2020 and only one of 2019. And he does say that is correct. And then she says, were any of the pictures reflecting the date of 26 October 2014? The witness says no. And basically those were the questions Mshololo had for the witness. And then another one of her questions was, can you tell us if a person that looked like this in 2020 could have looked the same in 2014? And basically Sibanda objected and says that those are matters for argument. And Mshololo says, no, but this person was taken through the pictures in exhibit DD4A, and basically that's what I'm confirming with him, the same pictures that he was taken through. Then the judge interjects and says, no, but are you referring to the clothing that he was explaining or the facial? And Mshololo says, well, the witness did talk about both, so I am basically talking about both. And Judge Rata says that then Mshololo should put it to the witness, and Mshololo says, no, that was not my question. I was actually responding to the objection of the state. And then as Mshololo was busy with her cross-examination, then the judge asked the state if they want to re-examine. Mshololo then says, no, I was not done. I'm not done with my cross-examination. And the judge says, no, but you said that was the last question. Mshololo says, yeah, it was the last question in respect to exhibit DD4A. Now I'm going into exhibit DD4B. And I'm just like, very good. I apologize for the change in lighting, guys. I realized that I forgot one point with Mshololo's cross-examination, where she asked about the XRY being able to retrieve deleted pictures. And the response from the witness was, yes, XRY can retrieve deleted pictures. And then the judge is like, no. This is not contextually right. Kanjani, when the witness has already answered, are you the witness? Are you the witness now, Judge Rat? And then Mshololo then responds to the judge indirectly by saying, Mr. Ndlovu, I'm not fighting, so let's not get emotions get into this. Let's not get emotional. That comment was directed straight at Judge Rata, in my opinion. She completes her cross-examination after several clarification questions with the witness, and then Sibanda re-examines the witness. But the points that he was raising was basically in respect to the phone that was used, and the witness does confirm that it was a J5, but also the pictures were still reflecting the 2020 date. Sibanda then completed his re-examination, and the judge had one question for the witness with regards to his eyesight, where he asked him, does he have any issues with his eyes? So basically the judge is saying that no, what this person sees is correct and there's nothing wrong with his eyes. That's what he wanted to confirm. But the witness brought in irrelevant information, regardless of whether his eyes are good or whether his eyes are bad. The information that he was bringing into this court was irrelevant for the day of the incident. After the break, we had a new witness, so Mr. Mabasa, or Warrant Officer Mabasa, who also did downloads on accused number 3's phone, and they basically led the evidence with regards to those photos. Now, these particular photos are said to be 3 photos, but in actual fact, it's 1 photo, and then the second one is a zoomed in version of the same photo, and then the one other photo is like a different angle of the same exact photo, or a change in lighting in the exact same photo. So basically, he was led with the evidence on that. And he does say that on this particular photo, he does see something that seems like a gold tooth, or that looks like a gold tooth on the upper jaw of the person that's on the photo. And basically, they go into the details of the pictures and when they were taken, what number they were taken from, which phone they were taken from, where he confirms that it was a Samsung GTE 220 that does belong to accused number 3, Mncube. And the judge then interjects and talks about Dr. Tlogwe, who talked about the 4 quadrants in the mouth, and when he asked the defense, is that the evidence that I heard? And Mshololo does say that this was not in relation to accused number 3, and the judge is like, oh, you always want to argue about everything, but she was kind of right. Because Dr. Tlogwe did talk about accused number 2, but the point that the judge was trying to make is that the 4 different parts in your mouth are called 4 quadrants. You have the upper jaw and the lower jaw, and that was the argument that the judge was basically trying to put there. Mnisi does ask for a bit of clarification, and then the judge seemed very angry at the fact that Mnisi was asking for clarification whilst the witness was still being led, and he said that Mnisi should just allow the witness to be led and he will cross-examine, because it doesn't make sense why he wants clarification now. Now, my thing is, they were given 3 pictures. They weren't given pictures with numbers to say this is picture 1, picture 2, picture 3. All these 3 pictures were considered exhibit DD4. So when they referring to the particular picture, Mnisi was just wanting clarification as to which one of the 3 are they referring to, and the judge seemed very angry about that and requested that we adjourn because the defense and the state, there seems to be confusion. And everyone's like, there's no confusion. We just want to know which picture exactly are you referring to, so that when the defense cross-examines, they'll be able to point to the right picture. The court adjourned for lunch because the judge was just not having it. And then after lunch, they continued with the evidence with regards to this particular picture. Even went into the details of the fact that this memory card did belong to Mncube, and when the phone was downloaded and all those details. And basically that was the evidence of the witness. And before cross-examination, Advocate Mnisi, defense for accused number 3, then stood up and said, you know, I've got instructions from Mr. Mncube that says before I even commence with my cross-examination, he would like to be taken to a dentist. He would like to be taken to a dentist to check if he ever had a gold tooth, right? And if the state is going to provide a dentist for him, he will also request that he gets his own dentist to run further tests after the state's dentist to prove that he never had a gold tooth. Now, this is a very bold move by accused number 3, because the very same exercise, it didn't take them 2 days to do it when they arrested Untanzi. Now, you're telling us Mncube had a gold tooth, and when he's requesting to go get tested by a dentist to prove that he had a gold tooth, y'all are refusing. Why? Why are you refusing Mncube to go to a dentist to prove your case? What are you scared of? What are you scared of, oh dear state? Because Mncube is saying, take me to a dentist, let's get those tests done. I've said it before, I've never had a gold tooth, and if you're so confident in your case, and you're so confident that in that picture that you say you have there, I have a gold tooth, take me to a dentist. And I agree, let's take him to a dentist, let's go prove that. Then the judge says, you know what, is that the law? Is that how things work? Yada 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 yada. And Sibanda says, well, basically, if that's the defense's case, they can do that test when they open open their case. Right now, this is still the state's case. But state, come on, give the people what they want. You say he had a gold tooth. Bring evidence that backs that up. Don't bring an edited photo, because that photo is edited. And the nice thing about the whole proceedings is that with Colonel Hadebe that came in before Mr. Mabasa, he was asked if pictures can be edited, and he said yes, they can. Even I can edit a picture. And I was like, good shot. Good shot, Mr. Hadebe. He says, yeah, even I can edit a picture. So basically the testimony of Mabasa just went under the bus with Constable Ndlovu. Was a constable or warrant officer Ndlovu. Basically went under the bus, because if he says he sees a gold tooth in a picture that he edited, because he's clearly saying the picture was edited, the fact that you zoomed into the picture, you changed the brightness of the picture, that is editing. I do that with my videos. I change the lighting so that I appear brighter, so that it's pleasing to the people that are watching my YouTube. So I know everything about editing. I brighten my teeth so that it's pleasing to the people that are watching. So what makes this person think that we would believe that that gold tooth was not inserted by him? Abahambe bayomtesta Mncube, guys. Abahambe bayomtesta. So basically the judge says that they need to bring arguments, they need to quote the law to see if Umnisi will be allowed to actually take accused number 3 to a doctor, or the state will be allowed to take a doctor to test accused number 3 and confirm if he had a gold tooth or not. So the proceedings then stopped on on Thursday, with the judge requesting that they prepare those arguments, and we will be back on Tuesday because it is a public holiday on Monday, and the defense and the state say they will all be ready with the laws, quoting the laws, to be able to back up this application that accused number 3, Mncube, has requested. Mncube is, I don't know, Mncube is one of those smart guys. There's something about him, man. There's something about that accused number 3. He's smart, man. He's smart. That was a smart move. That is my opinion. Those are the proceedings for the week. We did not have any sittings on Friday because the court was adjourned for Tuesday. So I will see you all next week. I hope that you enjoy your weekend, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.